is exactly 7 o'clock, and we will start this meeting, the monthly meeting of the trustees of the Village of North Bennington. Here in the room, we have Tara, Scott, myself, Chris Damon, zoning administrator, Doug Bugie, treasurer, and then on Zoom, other trustees, Ray Molyneux and Matt Patterson. We have Lori Elwell, our clerk, and we have Cat TV and a resident, Alex Miller. I thought I saw Rob Novak up there, but now I don't see him. So Rob, if you're trying to get in, try to get in. Okay, we likely are going to have a bit shorter of a meeting than was originally scheduled. We have ourselves scheduled a full hour to discuss budget. We may or we may not want that. Let me start, though, by asking resident Alex Miller if you would like to unmute and state whether there is a particular agenda item you wish to address.
Nothing specific to address, thank you.
Okay, thank you. But thank you for attending. Okay, so we will start right off with a review and approval of the minutes of Tuesday, December 12th. Everyone had those minutes? Are there any questions to the draft that was sent out?
I would make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second. Scott has made a motion. Tara has seconded. Presuming no other.
Hold it. What minutes?
Of December. Where are you? I don't see you anymore.
No, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
just not visible.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want you to be unseen and unheard. So
Well, you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
So what set of minutes are these?
These are the minutes of our regular meeting on Tuesday, December 12th. I
haven't seen them. I've been looking, but I haven't found the copy.
Okay, they were
emails
sent out some time ago, and they are also on the website.
Well, that won't help me at the moment, so
Okay.
I'll abstain.
Okay, and then Ray, if you do get a chance, which I can send these out again at the end of this meeting, but if you do, or if you go to the website and take a look at them, if you have any questions whatsoever, these can be amended and corrected if needed at the February meeting. That said, the motion and the second is on the floor. If no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And one abstention, correct, Ray?
Yes,
Okay.
only because I haven't seen them. I was
No
there.
problem.
So.
No problem. The next thing we were going to do is start in with Norm's report, and then go into budget discussion. However, Norm is busily salting and sanding roads, so we will not see him. Let me just talk very quickly on two very quick items, and then we can go three actually, and then we'll go right into budget discussion. First thing is, we had sent out, as you know, we had sent out RFPs to 3 engineering firms for a preliminary scoping of a project to redo the intersection there on Water Street and West Street over by the fountain. This was for some traffic calming, etc. We had only one response. I sent the quote, the cost quote, to all of you several days ago, and only today the technical part of it, should you wish to look at this. Norm has looked at it. Norm has studied it. His recommendation is, oops, here comes, let me get this, hold on, let me get Robert in. Robert Novak is joining. His recommendation is that we accept this, this proposal for $26,500. Does anyone have questions or concerns at this point?
What department will this come out of?
This is highway.
Highway department,
Mhm.
okay. And we're using 28, 23, 24 money, or we're using 2024, 25 money?
This one will be,
It'll be probably be a combination, to be completely honest with you.
No, that can
Because
work out
depending on
nicely.
depending on when they can start, it could still be in the 23, 24. And then my guess is they won't wrap it up until 24, 25.
Okay,
and if we wish, things are billed not all at once anyway, so the entire bunch of this will not be done before the end of the fiscal year, is my understanding. So. But as you read through the technical part, or if Norm was here, he could explain a little bit of it, but it is fairly straightforward. At this point, we will have a cost estimate at the end as to what the whole project would cost. And at this point,
this
this is
would be like going through an architect and getting blueprints,
similar, yes.
right?
They would research, the boundaries where the state road is, where our road is, where the, what do we call it? That pad, not a speed table.
Your feet
Just
table,
lost my
right?
word, sorry. Where the speed table would be able to go, where our, speed sign could go, because there would be a permanent speed sign, and we would want to know exactly where that would go, so that would be done, would be researched any other,
And then this is where we had talked about decreasing the width of the roadway on West Street between
yes.
Water Street and the library.
And squaring that so that the stop sign is at the end of that road where you need to go anyway
To see,
to see,
yes, yeah. No, I think this is a very good
and
idea.
putting in some curbing and things that would just generally slow traffic in that entrance.
Well, in the absence of other bids, and because Norm said this one is a good one, I think we should go ahead with this one.
That's that's a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve this bid at
Okay,
$26,500.
this is from MSK Engineering.
Correct.
And Lori, you have all the details of that, I believe. For your getting, so there's the motion on the floor,
I'll second that.
seconded there. Any question? Ray, do you?
Yes,
Yes, do you have any questions?
no,
Okay, then if no one has any other questions, all in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
aye,
That's unanimous, thank you. The next, okay, oh, thank you, yeah, I'm trying to watch. The next quick thing is that Jeff Gray asked if the trustees would approve moving a Maurice Kahn bench from Highland Gardens down to the little park that's next to Pangea. So that people, it would be enjoyed there more. It's not well used up in the Highland Gardens. And it could be just another place for residents and visitors to sit and enjoy the waterfalls and take a look at our beautiful scenery. He said if the trustees approve this, he will talk to Mr. Pembroke about helping move it, and Norm would set it up much like he set up the bench on the fire station side of the property there.
And it's on public owned land.
It's on public owned land there.
so
Has-
it's-
Has that been approved by the Highland Hall people? Because that's what,
Yes,
okay, then I'm all for it.
okay,
and it would be facing the Haviland's Privilege
I believe
On,
so, but I
like
think
that
that,
driveway.
yes,
between
it would be
Nancy and-
somewhere there. There's a little art. There was some art in the park there, this summer.
No, I think that's a
But
great
it would
idea.
be there. And I think, and what Jeff's proposal is that he would get together with Mr. Pembroke and with Norm. And the three of them would talk about, the best way to situate and secure that.
Yeah, does that need a motion?
Yes,
I make a motion to allow the bench to move.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay, good. We have 2 seconds. Ray, did you have any questions?
No, I roughly understand where it's going,
Okay,
and I'm okay with it being finally cited by the committee you just described.
okay, thank you. All right, all in favor then? Aye.
Aye.
Another unanimous. One last quick thing before budget, and that is it is time to sign our certificate of highway mileage. This simply is what the state lists the miles of our class 1, 2, and 3 roads. This is what our state funding is based on, which Doug has put in the budget at $35,000,
Yep.
which is about what we get every year. There are no changes in our roads, so all this needs to be is signed. There's no motion that is needed. I'm just simply mentioning it because trustees will sign it. Lori, I will knock on your door so you can sign it, and then I can get the original back to where it needs to go. So this is being circulated here for signature, and we only need those of us who are in the room, so. As long as we have 3, we have the quorum here. Next item we wanted to talk about is basically the budget. So I'm gonna hand this over to Doug at this point in time. And Doug can walk us through the budget. I can speak a little bit about some of the specific road projects that will come up to, if and when we need to do that, so. Doug, go, take it away.
Okay, so everybody has, I'm going to work off of the report that is the annual report format that was sent out. I'll kind of hit the highlights of things that have changed, you know, for budget purposes. If anybody has any specific questions about a particular line item, then certainly let me know. I'll save highway to last because that'll have the most pieces, and I think we can talk about the projects at that point. So I'm just going to go top to bottom, other than skipping highway. So general government, the budgeted amount, which does include the revenue, that is budgeted at $102,150. For the majority of those, they are fairly level funded. A couple of the changes, there is an increase to DRB and planning. That is namely for changes that are coming for extra work for the zoning administrator and the potential change that Mary had spoke about with rates. Depot maintenance is the most significant change. This was discussed at the prior meeting. The roof work and painting that needed to be done. Norm's estimate was 49,000. Or I'm sorry, Norm's estimate was 39,000. The normal budget is 10,000. And we are planning to use 17,000 of the current depot reserve funds to offset some of that. And then legal, we have increased by $2,000. So those are the budget items that went up, and I did budget an increase to our miscellaneous revenue. That's for a variety of reasons. Permitting, actually, I can break that out. That'll go a slightly different. 500 will move up to the zoning, and that'll be 3,000. I did forget to change those 2 items. So the increase for miscellaneous, namely is for interest earned. We have the money markets that we're earning now. And that is actually probably less than what we are going to have in this current fiscal year. So that'll just be on the conservative side there. Any questions on general government before I move on?
Where will our depot fund be, depot maintenance fund be when all this work is completed?
I can tell you.
About zero?
It'll be significantly lower, but if you give me just 30 seconds here, I can tell you based on prior month. And it wouldn't have changed much in December, because there was no contribution yet. Cash balances, here we go. So depot reserve as of November 30th was, yeah, so that was at 17,360. So that will have 360, but we do have a contribution amount for this fiscal year of depot reserve.
We're gonna put in
4,000.
Yeah.
So we can decide when the time comes,
So
when we
there
have the
might be
final bill.
4,360 left over.
Yeah.
Correct, or depending on the billing, we
Yeah.
could potentially use a part of that 4,000.
Okay,
And it would, we would always want to fund it on paper, but if it's going right out for that, depending if it, if they get up there and they find something else, we may want to use more to offset it. If, it comes in lower,
yeah.
then great, we wouldn't have to use as much.
And then the plan would be in subsequent years, at least for several years, we would increase that reserve funding
Right, build
again.
that
just
up
to
again.
build-
Right.
build
Because
it back
then
up.
the thought being is the one-time expense of the 39 would then come off the budget. We wouldn't continue to budget that extra 39,000. So that reduction, part of it would go into the reserve funding.
Right.
Any other questions for general?
Nope.
Okay. Fire is next. Total budget for fire is 107,430. Not a lot of changes to fire. The couple of smaller ones I'll hit first, and then there is one larger one. Training, we did increase the budget by 1,000. Chief Cross, who is not here this evening, we're guessing because there was a fire call almost right before this meeting started. He is working to get the proper folks the training that they need. He is working on getting everybody, getting a good list for himself, I'll say, so he knows who's has what training, what they need. This is a problem in a lot of rural areas with training, cost, location, and things like that. There was an article in the Banner not that long ago about this in Manchester, talking about their needs. So this is a real issue. And Chief Cross is very aware of travel time for his folks. He doesn't want to have to make them go too far north, so he tries to wait for the classes to be local, Arlington, Manchester, tries to stay not past Rutland, and will be trying to work with other departments for joint training. The gas and diesel, we did actually decrease, which does offset that increase. We had budgeted in this fiscal year for an increase because of gas and oil prices, which have begun to come down. So it doesn't look like we're going to come anywhere near what we had budgeted this year. Therefore, there's no reason for an increase, and we can probably safely actually decrease that. The one new line item you'll see is the firefighter gear replacement, which is different than the fire department gear replacement. We're being very specific in these two line items. The line item that is called fire department gear replacement is items for the trucks and the facility. So if they need to replace things, tools, things like that, that's where that line item comes. The firefighter gear replacement is what's called the turnout gear, which is what the folks wear at the fires.
And it also expires.
Correct, there is, and we are working, this will get us to a point where every year we're hoping Chief wants to try to replace 3 sets every year. The thought being then I think it's within 6 years, we'll be almost back to the beginning. And then we can stay ahead and we can probably drop this down by one set. So like Scott just said, we have to get going on this. We did a batch, not this fiscal year, but the prior fiscal year, which we didn't really know about, but we had to do what we did, and we got the interior folks done first, the folks who actually would go into the burning building. Now we're starting to replace some of the exterior folks, which are just as important. And as Chief Cross gets people trained, if he gets a new interior person, then he'll be making the decisions on which sets. But this way here, it is a line item, and we know that we're going to get those replaced in the proper time frame. Other than that, the truck payment will continue. We still do have a sinking fund for a portion to offset. So that line item, I'm just making that point, just so everybody knows that is staying the same. So any questions for fire?
No, but I think it's important to note that even in all of this budget, whether it's the general or the fire, or as we get further, we are maintaining reserves as best we can. We are going to continue to fund reserves because we don't want to shortchange the future for the sake of a portion of 1% or 1% on an increase this year.
Correct. Yeah, and we are funding. There was one, the fire truck fund was reduced by 1,000, but it's still higher than the prior years. Other than that, there was no reserve funds that are not getting level funded. Public Works, a few changes here, but they're not significant. We did move the tree removal and the tree removal reserve off of highway into Public Works. So if you're comparing year over year, there is a change in Public Works that would appear out of whack, so to speak, but it's namely because of that movement. We are going to be adding $500 for McWaters Park, which I did just see Mary's email, which is actually going to go under other organizations because it is volunteer work that takes care of McWaters Park. So that $500 that was added to parks maintenance will actually slide down to other organizations.
And I also heard, got together with Mark Boudreau. He is happy with this budget. So he is not here tonight, but he did say he's quite happy with the budget now. At some point, probably this summer, we'll want to get together and talk about the costs, the remaining costs for the Welling Field update.
Right, which is what I was going to say next, right? Because the Welling Field project is still moving forward, and that's going to be fully funded by ARPA. And we do have a parks reserve, which I still have that screen up. So the current parks reserve as of November 30th was a little over 40,000.
Right.
So we do have those funds if we needed to make changes or if there was anything else.
And there are a few upgrades to the Lions Park that Mark had told us about a couple of months ago. There will be some costs to those, and some of that will be reserves, and some of that will be the normal spending, and some of that will be looking for contributions.
The two changes, I'll make a quick note. Street lights, I did reduce by 6,000, again, by 2,000 down to 16. That's going by what we had spent and the projection going forward. Parks revenue, you'll see that's an $8,000 change, and that is because in this fiscal year we have $8,000, which is allocated coming from ARPA funds to buy the permanent speed sign.
Yeah.
So that will not carry over. So that's why that 8,000 comes out. Any question for Public Works?
Doug, I'm curious about the GMP bill. You're saying that the street lights are now down to 16?
Right. So so that figure through January, that was with the one that was just paid. So that won't quite double. So I'm going basically closer to what the 2022 number was.
Well, my experience was, I mean, many years ago, we changed all the lights to LEDs and we did all that work, and it was going to save us a lot of money, but that bill kept going from, I remember back with David Monk's, we were working on that, and that went from 16 to 17 to 18 up to 23 or more a year. And I'm wondering why it's now suddenly,
It hasn't been that high for a number of years though.
So
It's been around 16 for the last 2, 3, if not 4 years.
yeah, so in 22, the total for the fiscal year was 15,889. Through January 15th, we are at 9,345. So we won't have six, we don't need to double that 9 because we don't have another 6 months.
gotcha.
So that's where I was going with on that 16. We had increased to 18 this year. We probably didn't need to. We had budgeted 17 in 22, and we only were billed at, like I said, 15,889.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so I'm gonna skip highway for now. We'll save that for last if everybody's okay with that. Additional highway grant, I'll do all that at once. Payments to other organizations, there is only 2 changes. McCullough Library had asked for a $3,000 increase. I do want to be clear, in their presentation, they did state that there had not been an increase, but there was. From 22 to 23, they went from 25 to 27.5. I did budget for their request of the $3,000 increase for this year, but I did just want to point out that there had been an increase for those folks. Parent Rec, they are back to their 5,000. The $1,760 was a one-time for the weed removal that was shared between Bennington, Shaftesbury, and North Bennington. So that being a one-time, that is then removed, and they're back to, the recommendation is back to the 5,000 as a level fund. Any questions on other organizations? And like I said, the McWaters Park will move down here at the 500, and the parks will go back to the 5,000. Hearing none. The last couple, insurance, that we have our bill. So the 35,000 is the village portion. The total bill for insurance is shared with the water department. So the 35,000 is the village portion. So that should come in almost exactly. Contingency was recommended at a level fund.
What do we have in the total contingency, since you've got that up?
Yep. Contingency is 24,869.03 as of November 30th.
Okay. And also just for edification, what do we have in the audit reserve? Because I think you might want to talk about that in a bit.
Yep, audit reserve is 10,245.37.
Good.
Yep.
Doug, on the insurance,
Yes.
is that, does that include health insurance?
No, there's a line item in highway which has the health insurance for highway. That is workman's comp, property, auto, liability, all those, basically everything but health.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
I'm gonna say that's not a bad deal if it includes health.
All right. Any other questions about the last 3 there before we go back to highway? All right, hearing none, we will go up to highway. Okay, so I'll hit some of the highlights and then we can talk about the project list, which I think will fill in some of the blanks. Highway wages, again, there is an increase budgeted of 3,215. Specific wages will be talked about at a certain point in time during executive session. However, you can see in the prior fiscal year, we were under by a little over 12,000. And right now we would be projected to be under, even if we doubled what we have right now, we would be under by about 3,000. And And again, that probably won't double because right now it's just Norm and Kyle. We don't have a third person. So this will still allow for Norm to have the seasonal help that he typically gets through the spring and summer, and will allow for increase if the trustees decide that they want to go that route. Highway payroll taxes, the same thought. The increase from 22 to 23, we didn't reach it. And again, if we were to double it, we still wouldn't reach the 95. So that was level funded. Scott, here's your health insurance. So, yep, the estimate of the percentage increase there. And again, that's still, we're hopeful that it will come in under slightly is what it would appear. Let's see, highway new equipment, we did reduce by 5,000. The main reason for that is there has been a lot of purchases within this fiscal year for new equipment through the surplus sales that Norm had and things that were approved. So it will likely be there won't be as many purchases in the coming fiscal year. So that was a spot that we felt we could save a little bit there. The sidewalk tractor, that is going to be the new payment for the whacker, as it's called. So that will be an annual payment, and that is the $13,128. The backhoe and the dump truck have been paid off, so those are no longer budgeted for payments. They still both have a reserve. Equipment maintenance was level funded. Vehicle maintenance was a slight reduction, again, because of we are now moving to newer equipment for the next year or so. So the hope is the vehicle maintenance budget or the cost will be a little lower. Level fund on oil and gas. Slight reduction to the garage expense. Highway maintenance, will save that piece to last to discuss because that's where a lot of the projects are fit in. Salt and sand level fund. Truck financing, this coming fiscal year, one of the trucks will be replaced. We don't know what the cost will be yet. We do know we will have to finance a small portion of it. So we do want to acknowledge that. So went with 12,000, thought being that would be $1,000 a month payment. So that's where that figure comes from. Since we've been talking about it all along, right now in the highway truck reserve, we have $67,376.25. And in this fiscal year, because this will fund another 26,000 will be going into that fund this fiscal year because the purchase won't be made until next fiscal year. So we'll have that additional 26 in that.
And that fund is set up for 3 vehicles rotating over several years, so we don't just wipe it out ever.
Yep. Right, we would figure out.
Which is why we will have a small loan
Yep.
on whatever
Right.
vehicle is.
Based on, you know, the vehicle that needs to be replaced, when the next one's coming up
Right.
and
Right.
fit it in.
Trade in, all
Yep.
those things you don't know.
Employees retirement, slight increase there. And then the reserve funds are all recommended level fund. Sale of equipment, that has basically just a token amount in there of 2,000. Norm never knows going into this to the year what is going to be sold, and typically the money is used on replacement equipment. But we do need to acknowledge that that line item is probably always going to be there. Highway revenue, like Mary had said earlier, we estimated at 35,000 for this year, or for the budget purposes. We will probably be, we were budgeted for 31 in this fiscal year. At the beginning of the year, the state did give some extra funds because of the flooding. But we can't count on that going forward. So we just went with the normal slight increase because there hadn't been one the prior year.
But it is interesting that each of the last 2 years, the state has provided additional
Funding, correct. So our highway maintenance is currently budgeted at 95,000. which is a $5,000 increase. We've talked about, Norm talked about a number of projects, in his presentation, a couple of months ago. Just to reiterate some of the things that were talked about, paving for Scary George and Park, drainage on Lower Mechanic, drainage on Madison, drainage on Park, sidewalks on Upper Bank to Church and Church, and obviously the scoping work that is being done on Hall Street and now Main and West Street. So those items all seem like we're not budgeting enough. However, we are going to be able to get a portion of those done this fiscal year. As we talked about, we have approximately $64,000 from the grant from the culvert that we are able to spend based on how the payment of the grant came through, which those funds would cover the entirety of the Hall Street scoping work and the paving on Scary George and Park. So those would be fully funded. We have sidewalk reserves, which currently total $46,577.27. That would allow for the Upper Bank to Church and potentially a portion of Church Street, because there is potentially grant funds for that too. So that combination could allow for those items all to be done in this fiscal year. Now, if they are not done this fiscal year and we end with a positive fund balance, we can transfer that to next year.
And chances are they won't be done. The Upper Bank Street will at least be started. We did meet with V-Trans on that this past week. The Church Street would not be in this fiscal year. And what is budgeted, again, is not taking these reserves down to zero, but is really budgeting at least half of the projects.
And to tie into that, we have the highway grant projects, which are going to be culvert work yet again, Lower Mechanic, and then potentially one of the other two, depending on priorities. So we have budgeted an expense of $70,000 and income of $30,000. Now, the $70,000, as we know from our budget or our grant for Overley Roads culvert, we get reimbursed for our work and our equipment. So that's the funds that we can then turn around and basically reuse. And it works much better if we could do it within the same fiscal year, because then we don't have to move fund balances. So that all being said, the reason I'm pointing all that out is because even though it appears we're only increasing the highway maintenance by $5,000, we do have funds this year to work on that. And like Mary said, and if we don't finish those, the hope is we will then have a positive fund balance that can carry over and apply to next year without increasing that budget.
So this budget probably has some wiggle room, but with as many unknowns as are around, we would prefer not to shortchange a budget for the sake of taking out $5,000 here or there. And then when it comes time to calculate taxes in several months, we'll know exactly where we stand.
Right.
And exactly which. The other thing is there's a long wish list of projects. And Norm and I have talked about trying to push them all two or three into this current year, and then a bunch into next year. Many of those projects involve him and Kyle using the new equipment that we've purchased to do a lot of the work themselves. And there's only certain months and certain amount of time that they have. So I don't want to be too optimistic that everything on the list can be done, but I'm really encouraged that quite a number of projects are going to be completed. If not in the next 6 months, certainly in the next 18 months. We're gonna see a lot of things done. And then the next step is then saying, what comes after this? What are the other roads and the other things? Because you walk around this, our 2 square miles anytime after we get 2 or 3 days of rain, and there are lots and lots of needs. Not just for drainage, but to repair the whole road, but you gotta do the whole thing together. Why blacktop if you don't have the culvert? Why dig up a road for a culvert if you're not gonna repair the road at the same time? So, number of
No,
big,
that
big
makes-
projects
That
coming
makes sense.
in the next few years.
Okay, any other questions for highway or highway grant? Okay,
I
then
will
that's all
say,
I have.
I will say that Doug has put in a remarkable effort and an amount of work on this budget, and a lot of hours on it,
I
so
can't even
I-
believe.
I appreciate that.
I am
Here,
so
here.
Going to be a puddle.
impressed.
Somebody was saying something, I don't want to interrupt.
I
was-
said, here, here.
Oh, maybe it was Matthew trying
And I
to.
was gonna say the same thing. Doug, Jesus, I mean, incredible analysis of the budget, and it looks like you're keeping things kind of where they need to be. And thank you so much.
Yeah,
The next piece, are you going to talk about the potential tax impact?
yes, so,
Okay.
yep, I can go over if it were to go through and have no fund balances. So the way that if the budget is approved as presented, and then there are no fund balance carryovers, the increase would be 8.83%, to the overall. And that is down significantly from last year where it was 11.94.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yep. And to what Mary was saying is, if we move 5,000 here or there, it's basically not even quite 0.5%. You have to get over 10,000 to really make it be a significant change in the tax. Now, again, this is preliminary. We're not voting on the tax rate at this point in time, because there's still a lot of things to go. And if there is a positive fund balance, that will impact that.
But I would much rather justify or defend an extra potential percent on our tax rate and be able to show projects completed than defer and delay and kick a can down the road for the sake of saying, well, we want some arbitrary, we don't want this looking more than 5% ever.
Right, because in reality, the only way, if we were to try to get down to say 6% or somewhere in there, you'd have to start cutting reserve funding.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, because you can see there's very, very few increases to line items of money being spent that's going to highway projects or, the operation of the village. So if you were looking to get it down, like I said, just using 6% as an arbitrary number,
Yeah.
you would have to begin cutting reserve funding. That would be the only way that you could make the impact to get it to that.
Let me take a pause and just ask a question of those in the audience, if there are any questions, comments, or concerns from our residents listening in. If there is.
Can I
take
say,
it.
can you hear me?
Yes? Is this Rob?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes. As listening to things, I'm interested in long-term projects and the long-term vision. And when one says that we go around the town and we need something done here and something done there, it seems very reactive to certain things. And I'm not sure to certain conditions. And as you know, that I think that, at least what I've asked for is a review, either done by BCRC or an outside organization that would be a plan for, let's say, the next 10 years. I don't know if that's possible, but I wondered if anything is being done along
That
those
has been
lines, and if not, if there's some
long-term
way
planning.
I can
Yeah.
help.
Well, long-term planning has been a priority of this board for some years. The grants do not often show up. And that is what we are waiting for. You don't just go to BCRC and say, here, do it. And I don't believe that we are.
No, but what I'm saying,
Go ahead.
no, that's just the impression I get. I mean, if you are working on some things on that line, then I'm not sure that I'm getting the information that's going on.
There is not a grant at the moment that we can apply for a municipal planning grant. But we are in the communication line for when one does open up. I will also say
Okay.
that the projects that we're talking about, specifically these road projects, are not reactive. They are certainly, some come up more than others depending on weather. But we have been looking at the condition of our roads and what can be done within budget for several years. We are now looking out, it may not be 10 years, but we're looking out at what we need to do for the next 3 years at least.
Mhm.
And so if
Okay.
that's reactive, well, yeah, then it might be.
Okay,
At some point, it would be great to have every asset of this village listed and prioritized and looked at as a true capital plan should be. But yeah, I
yeah, I think so.
would give my IT for a good long-term plan. We will keep you informed and
Thank
you keep us on our toes.
Okay, then you can entertain
Okay.
a motion to approve.
Yes, I do. I just want to make sure there's no other questions from the audience. There's no other questions from trustees that I see. So we will entertain a motion for total expenditures of $849,574 with expected revenues of $94,500 and a net expenditure of $755,074, which is an 8.2% increase from the current fiscal budget.
Wait, are we voting on this budget now?
We are voting, yes, I am voting, we are looking to vote on this budget so that we can complete this for Lori for when she needs it. Now, it is not the tax rate. The tax rate is different.
Right.
We're voting on the budget only. If there are questions and if people are not comfortable voting on the budget, that's what we need to know right now.
No, I really like Doug's work on this, and I'm gonna make the motion.
Thank you.
Second,
Seconded. Okay. Ray, any questions from you?
No, I think I'm thinking about Mr. Nowak's question. And I know that that's partly to do with traffic and noise issues in the village, which we've made a little progress on, but not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I assume we don't have any money dedicated to that proposition. We're waiting for planning grants and for more, planning grants that would maybe be a plan for how we can assert the village's authority, what little it has, over roads that pass through it that are highways, to find ways of slowing down traffic and decreasing noise on them. 'Cause I don't
Well,
think
one
we've come
thing-
up with a plan yet, really.
Right, one of the things that we're doing, one of the steps we're taking towards that is that corner of West Street and.
Yes, I do
And, yeah,
understand that.
so, like that and the speed sign that we're also intending to get.
Right.
In the spring.
So, you know, these are the small steps that we're trying to move forward
Right.
in this planning. It may not be the grand scheme,
No,
but it is baby steps.
And I will say that in our several meetings with the traffic experts at BCRC, the gold standard, if I can use that, is to manage the roads as they come into your municipality.
right.
So that's why we're starting with that intersection coming up Water Street. That's a big one. Now, when the work is done on Bank Street, Upper Bank Street coming in, one of the possibilities is putting in some curbing that will look like it narrows a little bit of that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
V-Trans was not crazy about that plan, I will tell you. But whenever there is work done, there, you know, at least that's going on. But if we try the speed table at one place, you know whether it works, you know what the costs are, then you can install that in other locations as you come into the village.
And then I think wasn't Upper Bank one of the spots that was discussed
Yeah.
for the permanent speed sign?
Yes, and there will be room, not only in the current, there is room in the current budget, the current year we're in, for one permanent speed sign, and there will be another permanent speed sign in this budget that we're voting on now. There is room in here.
Okay. Well, that's something.
I just would like to say that I mean, these are good reactions to Mr. Nowak's concerns, but they're not going to do. His concern is what's going on in front of his house, and
Yep.
I'm not
And none of
sure.
these take care of that, right?
I'm not sure that there's anything that can be done to alleviate his concerns about noise between, you know, the Bank Street intersection and the railroad tracks. And
Unless the village chooses to forbid truck traffic coming through, and I don't know whether we'd have that ability.
I don't think
And Whitman's would have
state
more.
highway, I don't think we can.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I'm not advocating for it by any means,
Oh.
but you know, that's one thing. And I will say, I don't want to get too far off course, but you know, the idea that vehicles are driving around with these amped up mufflers and all these other things, that's an issue not just for us, but for everybody. This municipality isn't going to affect that. That is something that needs to be done on the state level or in inspection. It was in the newspaper not long ago where these things are adjusted when a car goes in for inspection, and the week later, as soon as the inspection is over, they're back on. So that's an enforcement issue that has nothing to do with anything we can control other than wishing it weren't so. But it's a reality. It's a nuisance. Anyway, can I get back to the budget? I'm looking at
Yeah,
time.
there's a motion on the table.
And a
Yes.
second. Scott
And a
seconded.
second, Scott seconded. Oops, hold on. Mr. Ellis is coming in, and I'm gonna let Mr. Ellis say something in a moment, and we have somebody named Bobby G. I'm gonna get that in here too in just a minute. So anyway, okay. And if there are no other questions, then I will ask, are we voting affirmative for the budget? All in favor?
Hi,
all right,
I'm hearing that's unanimous.
Yep.
yes,
Okay, so we've now got that. I'm gonna adjust real quickly. Steve Ellis is here with us, from Sage City Syndicate, Bobby G. I don't know who Bobby is.
That's me. Actually, I'm Jack Leonard,
Oh,
and it's Sage City Symphony.
okay. So we have already approved the budget, and so your funding for this budget is already in here. But if you would like to take just a minute or two to tell the public about your organization, please do. And I will give you a round of applause because I love the concerts.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm Jack Leonard on the board of Sage City Symphony. I'm here with Steve Ellis tonight. He's also on the board. It's an amazing organization. I've been on the board for about 20 years. I'm currently the treasurer, have been for a long time. And the history of the orchestra is really very, very connected with North Bennington. The first rehearsal was in the North Bennington Graded School in 1973. And rehearsals and performances were performed there for some years. Bringing percussion instruments turned out to be a bit much. And Bennington College graciously gave us access to Greenwall Auditorium. We have been performing there for years. Sage is a community orchestra and has been for 50 years. We're just celebrating the 50 years right about now. Concerts are free, open to the public. We do 4 performances a year. Players include adults, students, some Bennington College students, and also local youth orchestra players. Very modest stipend in our expenses. I think we submit our budget to you when we request a grant, and we have conductor stipend. We commission composers, and we have a concert master, among other expenses like buying music and licenses and things like that. The orchestra is a free full symphony orchestra in a rural area, and it's an anomaly in the United States. They play a full range of classical music. Neither Steve or I are actually, in the orchestra or playing, but I have immense respect for all the rehearsals and energy that goes into every single concert. We also have student compositions with astounding results. Bennington College students, high school students, you can believe that the music they write and compose, and then a symphony orchestra plays. It's a great experience all around. We draw our audience and players from North Bennington area and also New York and Massachusetts. I just wanted to reiterate that we are deeply engaged in the North Bennington community. We have events at Park McCullough Carriage Barn. We use catering services from Nick and Laney, connected with Pangea and Powers Market. We have events at the North Bennington School, and we also use the Bennington College Carriage Barn for special events. I have to tell you, the pandemic threatened risk and uncertainty for the future of the symphony, and the board was really quite concerned about it. I remember when David Monks was on the board for the symphony, and he always said you should always have a year's worth of your operating expenses in the bank in case something happened, and we did not have that kind of money in the bank.
No.
The board was concerned that we would lose audiences and donors. People would forget about us. Prior to this pandemic, we were breaking even every year, just hovering right around break even. But we knew that our invitation for Greenwall was not a guarantee. And so Christine Graham, who has been enormously helpful in advising us with her expertise in nonprofits, has helped us shape the post-pandemic fundraising efforts, which coincided with the 50th anniversary of the orchestra. I'm happy to say that audiences returned, musicians returned, donors remained loyal, and we are preparing for the next 50 years. Real quick, we've entered the digital age. We have a new donor tracking system. We use QuickBook applications now for bookkeeping and reports. We've actually hired a bookkeeper who has really a real interest in the symphony. Somebody really qualified. We have online banking, which integrates with QuickBooks. So we have come a long way. In terms of fundraising, we've, through all of the donations that have come in with the celebration of the 50th, we have created an endowment. We have $31,000 with the Vermont Community Foundation to build for the future. I know, and to prepare us for another unforeseen event. The beneficiary for this fund is, for this endowment fund, is the Fund for North Bennington. And should something happen to our symphony orchestra, God forbid, in the future, we believe in your mission and what you do for the community. And so, you know, we made that decision as a board. We're really excited. Steve, just, you know, tell them about the audiences came back. We've had incredible response.
That's marvelous. Thank you so much for your report. And we look forward to the other concerts.
I honestly thank you, and thank you for the time. We have always been grateful for your annual support. And you understand the upward pressures, you know, on our budget. So in the future, if you can, we would deeply appreciate an increase in your support, whatever you can.
Let's plan for that next year, and we'll make sure that we all regroup, and we're starting off in October and November on this.
Thank you very much.
Lori, did you have a question?
Mary?
I do.
Wait, Lori has a question, then I'll get to Ray.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just ask Jack and Steve if we're talking about allocations and funding, and I will need a report for the annual report that we present to the voters in March. And I usually get a really lovely one from someone on your board.
Mhm.
And I did not send you an email yet about that. But now I don't need to.
Okay, so what's the time frame that you would need a report, like February or?
No, so the end of this month.
Okay.
And really it's just what you just said, you know, it is lovely, nothing long, just a page of what your activities have been and really just what you said.
Okay, that sounds good. I think we're ready.
All right,
And
thank you.
I think, Jack, we do have, and we do exchange emails, you and I,
Mhm.
because I do send you the check each year.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
Lori
Oh,
Elwell.
yes, Lori Elwell, yep.
Right, and so you can just email me that,
Okay.
or whoever can email, and I do see Steve almost every day. So
Oh, nice. Lucky.
Okay, so
But
thanks
thank you.
again. Let me ask
thank
Ray,
you so
did you
much.
have a
We're really
comment?
deeply appreciative of all the support you've given to us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Ray, did you have a comment before we need to really move on?
My question is just what are we contributing in our budget this year?
We contribute 500,
Okay,
and that's
Well-
been kind of historically the case.
yeah, I do want to add my admiration for the work they do. I've always enjoyed the concerts I've gone to, and I think it's useful to encourage musicians and those who find they are interested in music throughout the community. And I desperately hope they can keep it going for as long as possible.
Yeah, my just a little side note, my 10-year-old son played cello with them and with a bunch of other kids. They came
Yep,
on stage and played them, and
I saw that
that was huge.
at the last concert, right?
We're all
Yeah.
talking about, you know, future Sage Symphony players.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I would like to recommend to the Sage city folks that they come back next year with a request for an increase.
Yep.
Maybe
Thank
1,000.
We'll start that a little earlier.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all. If we're done there, we're going to move on to the next item of business. Now, I am a little short on the
We're
time
gonna
right
sign
now.
off. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you both. I'd like to just do a literally 2-minute approving payment of bills. I don't think that's gonna take that long, and then we're gonna move into an executive session.
Okay. I have payroll first, nothing out of the ordinary. Regular 2 pay periods, with 1 Aflac, total is $15,263.20.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor? If no questions?
aye.
Aye. All right,
Okay, the regular warrant, it covers late December through January. I combined them because there was only a handful of bills that were paid in late December. The amount does seem large, but there are 2 large items and 3 large items, and I'll go over those really quickly. So the total is $234,799.08. We have the $100,000, which was Norm's excavator. We have $43,810.27 to the North Bennington Graded School District, which is delinquent taxes from the month of December. And we have $58,452.90 to Tri-County Contractors, which is the whacker. So there is almost $200,000 of the $234,000
Yeah.
warrant in those 3 items.
and those, at least the cat purchase is covered by,
100% by
income.
sale.
okay,
The whacker we will talk about towards the end of fiscal year.
right,
That will be at least portion from reserve and portion from sale of the old whacker.
okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
And if there's no other questions, then.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you have paid, Matt Surdam, well, I guess it's, well. that's
Yes,
not his
Ray,
business
we
name.
paid
Yes.
that in
Okay,
the
thank you.
late December.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I've approved, I'll second it.
Okay. Assuming no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go. Okay. At this point, then, we are going to halt our recording. But those of you who wish to remain in the waiting room, we are going to make a motion, if that can be done. Yes.
I make a motion to move to discuss a personal matter for which premature disclosure would put the village at a substantial disadvantage. And
I will second that motion.
we need.
Yes, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
And then I move that we go into executive session to discuss it.
And I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, right before just point of housekeeping, if I will put everyone who does not disconnect into the waiting room. I don't believe we're gonna have any items to vote on coming out of here, but I don't know that for certain.